I only made $5,000 during my first year in New York City. Now, how did I live in Manhattan on $5,000 for an entire year? Well, it was 1976, and things were a lot cheaper then. Like a subway ride was 50 cents. I shared an apartment with 4 other people, and I lived in the worst room. I was in this kind of alcove on the way from one room into the bathroom. There were rats running around on the floorboards underneath where I was sleeping. But I was in New York. The way I got into the business was as a graphic designer. I used to design posters and catalogs and all kinds of stuff. And in those days, graphic design was all done manually with your hands. There was no computers or anything like that. So if I wanted to draw a square, I had a T-square that sat on a drawing board, and I had a pen, and I drew that. And if I wanted a vertical line, I had to put a plastic triangle on it and draw it that way. If I wanted to put a letter down, I had to do it by hand. I had to cut out letters and stick them on or rub them on. So if you look at this poster I did, every single letter on this poster was put there by hand for me, everything. Anyway, I was getting little jobs, whatever I could get, and one of the jobs I got was designing a catalog for United Artists Classics. Now, this isn't the kind of classics division as we've come to know it, where you have a studio company that comes out with foreign films and American independent films and documentaries. This was actually a classics division where they had old Warner Brothers films and different old films in their library, and they were going to rent them out. I worked for a guy named Josh Balgley, and he was a really difficult man because he wanted me to do so much. He didn't want me to use the standard pictures from these old films. He wanted me to put in pictures that had never been seen before. So in the UA building on 729 7th Avenue, they had a floor where they had the linen books. And the linen books, they were these little volumes that had all the contact sheets from classic movies. So I was down there looking at every single frame of film shot by the still photographer on things like Some Like It Hot. You know, I had heard stories about the making of the film, so I was watching these frames. Oh, is there tension here between Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe? Now, Josh Balgley's assistant had a name for him, which was Bag of Shit. So I would come home to my roommates, and they would always say, "How'd it go today with Bag of Shit?" And I would say, "Well, how do you think it went today with Bag of Shit?" Eventually, Bag of Shit's assistant told me that the Dino De Laurentiis production of King Kong with Jeff Bridges was going to shoot at World Trade Center. And they were going to have this 40-foot King Kong just laying out in front of there and some massive amount of extras. Let's go watch. So we met up that night and we went to World Trade Center. But we couldn't get anywhere near it. We couldn't see anything. So we figured, let's try the other side of the building. So we came around the other side of the building and we were going in the entrance and we see that they're signing up people to be extras. And we figured, let's get in the line. Maybe we can get away with this. And I'm putting down my address and everything like that. And I realized they want my address so that they can pay me. And I realized I had planned for the whole night just to hang around there for no reason. And I was going to get $20 for doing this. But that was not as thrilling as when we got outside and I saw the 40-foot King Kong laying out there. I mean, he wasn't really doing anything. He was just kind of laying out there like a lump. But there were all these people around, and it was quite exciting. You know, the special effects guy would get on top of King Kong and throw out some cans of red paint on him, and everybody's cheering. Hey, hey. He's pouring this blood all over King Kong. But it was really slow. Nothing was happening. It was just waiting and waiting and waiting, just pure torpor. And I couldn't believe that making a movie could be so slow and could involve so much waiting. Eventually, they broke for lunch. And on a movie set, after a certain number of hours, I think it's like 6 hours after crew call, they have lunch. They call it lunch even if it happens at 1 a.m. It doesn't matter. It's lunch. So here was the next big event of the evening. It blew my mind. They gave me a sandwich. Then, while I was eating the sandwich, who comes along to like the table where there's food and stuff laid out? Jeff Bridges. And I can't help myself. I go up to him and I go, "Hi, Jeff, I'm a huge fan of yours, and I used to show your movies at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and talking about why I loved The Last American Hero and which films of his I liked and this and that." And I said, "Jeff, I'm really sorry. I'm monopolizing your time. I'm sure you have other things you need to do." And he looked at me and he put his arms around me and he said, "No, man, I love it." And I'm like, wow. And eventually they did do the scene. And so I'm pushing and pushing myself through the crowd to try and get to the center, get as close to King Kong as I can. But I'm pushing up. And you can see me. When the camera pulls up, there's the back of my head. And can you imagine? I not only went there and watched, I am in the movie. I'm in King Kong. So if I can sum up, I got $20. I got a sandwich. I met Jeff Bridges. And I got to be in King Kong.